It's actually on the day of Gaur Purnima. That pastime we discussed in a previous lecture. The 7th day of Holi is played in all the other villages and forests of Vrindavan. And the 8th day of Holi is played with the wet chowders in the village of Dauji. So keep that in mind, and perhaps one day spend some time in Vrindavan during spring and attend all these 8 festivals. So the Holi festival fits well into Vrindavan spring. Why? Because both spring and the celebration Holi are bursting with a kaleidoscope of colors, you could say. A kaleidoscope of colors. Spring, with its newly blossomed flowers, and Holi, with its colored powders and dyes. They're both very colorful. And there's a wonderful pastime I came across connected to Vrindavan's spring flowers that I'd like to share with you. It's described that one spring morning, the gopis set out to explore it's described the fragrant and colorful Vrindavan. And they were just joyfully wandering from one forest garden to another. It's said that spring, the king of all seasons, I was reading, decorates every creeper, tree, garden, and meadow in Vrindavan with its flowers. But until it can offer its floral beauty to its queen, it feels melancholy and incomplete. It's so beautiful. So when the gopis arrived at a special grove, it was called, or is called, Maharaniya. Maharaniya. These gopis were inspired to offer all of its wealth, the flowers, to its worshipable deity, Srimati Radharani, because as we know, Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan, Vrindavaneshwari. So the gopis sat Radharani on a golden throne, and they went about collecting all kinds of beautiful flowers in that grove. Spring had sprung. So they went about collecting all these flowers. Now, it's described that they collected the flowers whether budding, blossoming, or in full bloom. It's just a technical detail, but it's very beautiful. They collected flowers that were either budding, blossoming, or in full bloom. And what did they do with them? They set about making with them anklets, garlands, a crown, and other ornaments with flowers. It's an art the gopis are expert at. Everything with flowers. Like sometimes in our ISKCON temples, I think on Radhastami, isn't it? We make a full flower outfit for Radha and Krishna. So like that. We're getting trained up. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So Lalita and Vishaka, they directed the older girls, who in turn told their own assistants what kind of specific flower decorations to make. And all the while I was reading the girls, they happily chatted about what? Srimati Radharani's natural beauty. And as the ornaments were handed to them one by one, a few especially described clever girls, like Rupa and Rati, it said, placed them on Sri Radha, while others danced around the throne, singing and playing musical instruments. And when all the ornaments were in place on Radharani's limbs, she appeared like the Queen of Spring. The Queen of Spring. So therefore, at that time, the gopis started calling her Maharani. Maharani. And they named that place where she was adorned in such a beautiful way, Maharaniya. Maharaniya. Maharani. The Queen of Spring, and that pastime takes place in Maharaniya. And I was reading that in Braja, the title Maharani signifies more than just royal lineage. It's also awarded to gopis who, quote, rule over pure devotion. Isn't that nice? That title is given to gopis who rule over pure devotion. Thus Vaishnavas also honor Yamuna Devi and Tulsi Devi with the title Maharani. Now, Garga Samhita mentions that another time, when spring arrived in Vrindavan, all the gopis were overcome with the desire to celebrate by throwing colors. Springtime, holy. However, Radharani was not in a festive mood at that time, and no one dared make any preparations for Holi without her. Their whole life, the gopis, is centered around Radha and Krishna. So one morning, all of Radharani's friends, they gathered together and they approached her, and they pleaded as follows: "O Radhe, O lustrous beauty, O sweet Manini, O sweet Manini, please listen. Now is the time for the holy festival, and Krishna will come soon to your palace for celebrations. His friends are already at Pilipokar, that famous lake, Pilipokar, planning a big celebration." So then everyone looked out the window. And the gopis said, "Oh, just look now, Sri Radha, here he comes, the son of Maharaj Nanda." Wow. They said to her, "Radha, just see his enchanting eyes. They are dancing amidst his dark curly tresses, which are dangling over his lovely round cheeks. He is magnificently dressed, wearing a flowing yellow garment and golden inlaid anklets, which are tinkling so sweetly. Yasoda Maya has decorated him with a glittering crown. Just see, Radha, his earrings are shining through his garland like lightning in dark clouds. Holding a spraying syringe in his hands, he is fully drenched in red color. O Radhe, he is waiting for you." So it's written that as Krishna approached the palace, he stopped in front of the palace and he called out, "Hey Radhe, hey Radhe, it's a lovely moonlit night. How can you be sitting inside? O Radhe, groups of gopis and gopas from all over Braj have gathered here for Holi." Now, she wasn't in a good mood, transcendentally good mood, but by hearing these words of Krishna, her heart melted. And surrounded by her lovely friends, she came out of the palace. I was reading, it's described as if a moon traversed through a pond of lilies. This is how Radha came out of the palace, as if a moon traversed through a pond of lilies. And the holy festivities began by throwing this gulal, this red-colored powder made from rose petals that I mentioned earlier, between the two teams. Who are the two teams? Obviously the gopas and the gopis. But when Krishna employed his pichakari, what's a pichakari? Pichakari is his spring syringe. That's the translation the Goswamis give, a spring syringe. You know, the colors are not just thrown in powder form, but they're in liquid form through these syringes. You see them in the Pichwai paintings from Rajasthan. So, when Krishna employed his pichakari, it failed to drench Sri Radha with color. She was just so expert at moving. So he couldn't hit her with the color. So the acharyas say, instead, what did he do? He sent her his love. He sent her his love. Vrindavan ki. But after some time, it's written, the acharyas write, it became apparent that Krishna's team was losing in this battle of Holi. So, to save his team from being defeated, Krishna desperately sprayed color over Radharani's closed eyes with the syringe. However, in the intricacies of rasa and performing these pastimes, through the acharyas' eyes, we're blessed to see these things, this was not acceptable. According to the rules of Holi, you can't spray someone in the face, in the eyes. whether open or closed. So the acharyas conclude that Krishna was cheating. He was cheating. And as a result, they say, all the excitement and cheers vanished in an instant. Just everything came to a stop. Because Krishna cheated. You can't do that, spray in someone's eyes. So they put it so poetically, so beautiful, that just melts the heart. All the excitement and cheers of playing holy vanished in an instant. Now, to resolve this critical issue, the case was taken where? To Lalita's court. Lalita is going to hold court and make a judgment here. So Lalita said, Krishna has certainly cheated. As such, he should be appropriately punished. He always tries to save himself by cheating. And our Radharani is well aware of this devious trait of his. Our Radharani is ever vigilant. So now, hearing all this, Krishna became embarrassed. He actually, it's described, he became extremely displeased with his behavior. He became submissive to Sri Radha. She has the Mahabhav to control Krishna. So Krishna came before Sri Radha and asked her for her pardon. But she was not in a mood to forgive. So Lalita loudly declared an appropriate punishment for Krishna. Everyone was just, the whole celebration stopped. You can imagine everyone in their tracks, and they're just not moving. They're just, listening to this, to Lalita in court. So what's the punishment? So Lalita said, the punishment is color Krishna's eyes with kajal. Because she had, he had covered Radha's eyes with the colored liquid. So she said, color his eyes with kajal. Kajal's that dark substance the ladies line their eyes with, kajal. So Sri Radha took some kajal, and with two of her fingers, she tried to apply it around Krishna's eyes. But the acharyas write that the moment she tried, Krishna turned his head away. So Sri Radha quickly put her arm around his neck, pulled him in real close, and applied the kajal. So she won. So afterwards, Krishna presented his pataka, his pakata. Pataka in Sanskrit means a waistband. He presented his waistband to Sri Radha, and then he returned home. It was a rule when there was competition that in any of these games, that the loser in any event had to surrender their waistband to the person who defeated them. Nice detail in Braj Leela. Hare Krishna. Let's see. There's also a holy pastime. You could say kind of an opposite pastime, if that's the proper way of phrasing it, where Sri Radha and the gopis, they go from Varshana to Nandagram for holy. We just discussed Krishna coming from Nandagram to Varshana with his friends. So in this particular pastime, Radha and her gopis, they leave Varshana to go play holy with Krishna in Nandagram. It's a similar pastime, but there's always differences. But I wanted to mention that as they traversed through the forest to Nandagram, the gopis sang a particular song which is quite famous in Vrindavan. And it goes like this. Darshan de mora mukuta hare darshan de. It's Brajbasa. Chanda suraja tero dhyana dharat hain jan dhare no laki tare. Galabai jhanti bala sohe kanana main kundala vare. Listen to this. Krishna, please give us your darshan. You wear a crown with a peacock feather. The moon, sun, and millions of stars also meditate on your unique personality. The earrings in your ears and the garland around your neck, made of Vajjayanti flowers, look so wonderful. Hare Krishna. Yes. So now when in Varsana or Nandagram for Holi, I was reading, there's always a public gathering. You know, all the Brajabasis want to come and see whether Holi is being played in Varshana or Holi is being played in Nandagram. There's always a big crowd that comes to watch, and some obviously sometimes participate. And during that time, there's a special gathering where the Brajabasis sing many songs. As the pastime's actually happening, the tradition is the Brajabasis would sing songs to facilitate the emotions, the spiritual emotions in the hearts of those who are taking place. This is real culture. These types of performances, musical performances that elicit deep spiritual feelings of love. Now, one of these songs vividly describes the pastime of Holi. And I found that its mood is captured by our illustrious Acharya, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, in his book. He wrote one book called Radharasa Sudhanidhi. It's quite a deep book. Radharasa Sudhanidhi. And I found an appropriate verse, text 96, to capture this mood of the songs that the Brajabasis sing while Holi is taking place. And it's text 96. In Sanskrit, Kalindi Tata Kushja Mandir Ghato Yogendra Vajat Pada Jyotir Janpar Sada Japati Prema Shura Punar Hariki Kenyapya Madbhut Mula Sada Tir Sa Nanden Samohita Sa Radeti Sada Rudi Sbut Ratu Me Vidyapara Dvata Keshara. So beautiful. Listen to this. Quote, this is how they're singing, the Brajabasis, during Holi. May the two syllables Radha with Krishna sitting like the king of yogis in a cottage near the bank of the Jamuna in Mansarovar, meditating on her lotus feet, being overcome with the most splendid, blissful, and nectarian love, appear in my heart and in my eyes, filled with tears as a result of chanting his name at all times. I'd just like to repeat that again. May the two syllables Radha with Krishna, sitting like the king of yogis in a cottage near the bank of the Jamuna in Mansarovar, meditating on her lotus feet, being overcome with the most splendid, blissful, and nectarian love, appear in my heart and in my eyes, filled with tears, as a result of chanting his name at all times. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati ki jai. Okay, here's one last spring pastime. It's going to be hard leaving springtime, isn't it? But we're going to be speaking in the next week or so, 2 weeks, about summer. So in Krishna consciousness, the future is always bright. So this last pastime, actually I'd like to share before ending our series on springtime in Vrindavan, and that is a pastime that takes place in Phalena. Phalena. Phalena is a small forest where the gopis, and it's mentioned sometimes the gopas, would play Holi. Now the acharyas say that on one special occasion at that place, Radha and Krishna became, mere playthings of their girlfriends. Radha and Krishna became mere playthings of their girlfriends. So at the center of Phalena, there's a very large banyan tree, beneath which sits a throne. It's described a throne fit for the king and queen of Braja. A throne fit for the king and queen of Braja. And the ground around the throne is paved with gems. I was reading that outshine those in Indra's court, obviously. Outshine those of Indra's court at Shvargaloka. It's mentioned that in the heart of spring, a group of gopis once asked Radha and Krishna to sit upon that throne. come sit upon this throne, and allow them, their girlfriends, to show them unrestrained love. The gopis wanted to show Radha and Krishna unrestrained love. We worship the gopis because they have that pure Amala Bhakti, that pure unselfish love for Radha and Krishna. So when you love someone, you want to show that love. So they asked Radha and Krishna, please sit on this throne. We want to show you, demonstrate our unrestrained love. So the divine couple agreed, and as they sat down on the throne, some gopis began playing musical instruments. Others were singing songs about the divine couple's mutual love and unlimited qualities, while others covered Radha and Krishna with red, vermilion, and blue dye. Red, vermilion, and blue dye. And other gopis, they approached the throne, and one after another, they gently smeared a little bit of a colored dye on Radha and Krishna's faces. You see that in Holi. It starts off kind of slowly. You put some dye on your friend here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and after a while, you just throw. And that's what happened. As the music sped up and the songs got louder, the gopis sprinkled dye all over the divine couple's bodies. And as it's described, the jubilant exchange reached a climax, the gopis used these syringes, with colors. And not just, little throwing some, dye, but they used what's described as flower bombs of dye, flower bombs of colored powder, to cover Radha and Krishna, so much so that they became indistinguishable from their throne and from each other. In fact, it's said the entire area surrounding the banyan tree was engulfed in a cloud of gulal, we mentioned gulal, rising higher and higher into the air until it could be seen by what? Amused Brajabasis from as far away as Nandagram. I love that detail. This cloud that rose up. We were discussing in other lectures how this cloud of the holy powders rises into the air. And this time it rose so high into the air it could be seen by amused Brajabasis from as far away as Nandagram. And while all this was going on, Radha and Krishna sat hand in hand, apparently unaffected, but subtly responding with how it's described, submissive smiles and glances to the laughter, gaiety, and affection of their friends. This is love is reciprocal. So, this place is called Phalena, where the gopis, it's described, showcased the result, Phalena, of their loving devotion. Now, it's said that by going there, one can understand these truths and thereby gain inspiration for realizing them in one's own life. That's the benediction from going to Phalena. So let's go there. Let's put it on our list of things to do that in order to become fully Krishna conscious. So, dear Prabhus, this concludes, it's so hard. This concludes our lectures on springtime in Vrindavan. And next week, as I mentioned, we'll begin a series on summertime in Vrindavan. And I very much hope and pray that our 7 springtime lectures have given pleasure to all of you. And in that mood, that prayer and inspiration, I'll finish with a very beautiful verse from the Sri Prapana Jivanam Ritam, from Sri Prapana Jivanam Ritam, 10:14. So beautiful. Quote, during the festival of relishing the nectar from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, drops of nectar fall from the mouth of the bees as they hum the glories of the Lord in an intoxicated mood. For my own supreme benefit, I have carefully gathered some of those drops of nectar herein. In this way, I serve the dust of the feet of those great devotees. again and again. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Be back in a few days. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Sham. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Krishna, everyone. Welcome back again to our ongoing series on the glories of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, in our last lecture on springtime in Vrindavan, we concluded saying that it was the final in the series. Well, it turns out that's not the case. Because I found a number of references actually to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's observance of Holi during the month of spring that I hadn't previously mentioned. You may remember how in one class we quoted Srila Narahari Chakravarti Thakur in his Bhakti Ratnakara, wherein he describes how the 6 seasons personified met and discussed how Lord Chaitanya would soon appear in Nadia in spring. And you remember how upon hearing this, spring became glad and thanked his or her good fortune. Well, the other day, I was reading Srila Kavi Karnapura's Sri Chaitanya Charita. It's a wonderful book because, Gaur Purnim's coming up, so I was reading. And I came across a beautiful description in how springtime personified prepared herself to actually meet Lord Chaitanya upon his birth, his appearance in Nadia, Navadvip Mayapur. In one book we hear how spring's informed, and another book we hear kind of take off from where one left off. We hear how she actually prepared for Mahaprabhu to take birth in her season in Nadia. And therein Kavi Karnapura describes in his literature that spring was thinking, oh, the Lord will come soon. Then he says, she smiled. And that smile maddened the cuckoo birds in Nadia and made them coo very sweetly and very playfully. She's beginning to prepare for the Lord's arrival. And then it's described that her smile also made flowers bloom and filled them with sweetness and honey. Then it's described that springtime personified, it's a little esoteric, tied the sweetness of the tumultuary forest that was her hair, spring, into braids, and made the black bees and blossoming vines that were her eyebrows dance with joy. Then to receive the Lord, she made a crown with new lavanga flowers, and she built a cottage for Mahaprabhu with lotus stems. Nice preparations. Then Kavi Karnapura says that the 10 directions became clear and pure. The sky became clear and pure. All waters in the district of Nadia became clear and pure. And last but not least, everyone's heart became clear and pure. Spring's providing some nice preparations for the Lord's arrival. And then he writes that springtime carefully arranged for the exact day that Mahaprabhu would appear by, quote, happily embracing that day while again and again kissing the face of the eastern horizon. I like that part. Happily embracing that day while again and again kissing the face of the eastern horizon. And then she caused the full moon to shine with great splendor. And as the cuckoos sang the word, glory, 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 it's described, bees danced gracefully, and a breeze, a soft breeze, came in from the south. Then with the powers invested in her, springtime made the entire world peaceful and pure. And Kavi Karnapura says, at that auspicious moment, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yuga avatar, made his appearance in this world from the womb of Mother Sachi. And Kavi Karnapur concludes that section by saying, and with his transcendental power, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus defeated the darkness of this world. With his transcendental power, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus defeated the darkness of this world. And that was the first Gaura Purnima. So nice, two authors introducing this, the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this world. Now that's not all. At that point we can hear, or this point we can hear from another author who describes the yearly ceremony, the celebration of Gaura Purnima, or the appearance of Lord Chaitanya in this world. He describes actually how Mother Sachi would celebrate each year her son's quote-unquote birthday. Now that author, his name is Gadadhar Bhatta Goswami, who writes about these pastimes in his Gadadhar Bhattaji Kevani. Gadadhar Bhattaji Kevani. Now I checked, as I often do, with the GBC Shastra Committee, and they researched and they gave their approval of this book. It's in line with our culture, with our philosophy, with our history. Now, Gadadhar Bhatta Goswami, I found out, was a direct disciple of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And he is famous for continuing the tradition of reading and preaching the Srimad Bhagavatam after the departure of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. You remember we had a full lecture on Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and we were mentioning his deity was the Bhagavatam, and every day he would read, and every day he would speak on the Bhagavatam. This was the Seva that Mahaprabhu gave him. So his disciple was, one of his disciples was Gadadhar Bhatta Goswami, and he continued that tradition on behalf of his Guru Maharaj. So he wrote this book, Gadadhar Bhattaji Kevani. And I was reading it. It's actually a series of poems. I had a translation written in Brij Bhasa, or we say Braj Bhasa, the Braj Bhasa language. Very beautiful. Now therein, Gadadhar Bhatta Goswami begins by explaining that on the occasion of observing her son's 7th birthday, or let us say his appearance day, Lord Chaitanya's mother, Sachi Mata, she began the day by dressing Nimai in a new outfit, which consisted of a white dhoti and a white chadar. And it's mentioned that the white chadar had yellow printings of sandalwood paste all over it. So then Sachi Mata decorated Nimai's, because he's young, Nimai, she decorated his long curly hair with white malati flowers and strings of white pearls. It just comes right before your vision when you hear this transcendental knowledge. And after that she put kerilium, or kajal, on his eyes. She decorated his ears with earrings, and she put on a waistband that was consisted of how was it said? His waistband was a tight golden belt. That's how it described. His waistband was a tight golden belt. Then she decorated Nimai's fingers with rings on his 7th birthday, and she put on his wrist golden bangles. And then it's described in detail by the author that she called all of her friends, householders, into her home to worship, to watch her, or her husband, worship the Shalagram Shila. And particularly because they were worshipping the Shalagram Shila that day for the well-being of their son. Then it's written that she organized a feast, a big feast, and she invited 64 brahmanas to come and eat in her home for the purpose of giving blessings to her son Nimai. And at that time, everyone in attendance offered garlands to the 7-year-old Nimai, and they gave him gifts. And after that, brahmanas performed Vedic rituals specifically for the long life of Nimai. Then Sachimata put her son Nimai on an asana, and she had an elderly Brahmin sit next to him and perform what's called Ashta Chiran Jivi Puja. Ashta Chiran Jivi Puja, which is a ritual of worshipping 8 eternally long living personalities. And they're described. Asvadhama, Bali Maharaj, Vedavyas, Hanuman, Vibhishana, Kripacharya, Parasaram, and the sage Markandeya. They live a long time. So this ritual was, in honor of them. So then she had Nimai also worship these 8 eternal personalities with specific mantras. And then she had him offer his respects to a group of brahmanas as they sang the glories of his lineage, meaning mother and father, grandmother and grandfather, great-grandfather, going way back. It's all very interesting, our Vedic culture, how they did things. We can embrace many of these things to facilitate our progress in Krishna consciousness. So then astrologers came forward, and they described the different positions and different state of Nimai's planetary system, and they predicted, it's understandable, they predicted extraordinary things for him in the future, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the group of Brahmins, they came forward again, and they chanted what's written as svasti mantras, and then they showered Nimai with yellow turmeric rice as a blessing. So, of course, in Western concept, this is not the way they celebrate birthdays. This is a more cultured way. This is the way that we celebrate, ultimately, the Lord's appearance in this world as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yuga avatar. Then it's described, she did as she did every year on Nimai's birthday. She offered him 3 neem leaves and mishri. Mishri is a sweet preparation to eat, so that all the bitterness in his life would go away, and his life would be filled with sweetness. This is really motherly love. Then, I found this very interesting, she tied 7 knots in her sari. 7 knots in her sari, to remember how old Nimai had become this year. And then, what did she do? She embraced her son with the warmth of love, motherly love. She embraced her son with the warmth of transcendental motherly love. Then Gadadhar Bhatta Goswami writes that Sachimata, whose life and soul, day and night, sorrow and happiness, pain and pleasure were all about Nimai, she stopped looking at him. And she said, "My love, if I stare at you in love, My evil eyes will hurt you and become overwhelmed. Her humility. So hearing her words, 7-year-old Nimai sat in her lap, and he said, it's so sweet, "O mother, the biggest punishment for a son is to be far from his mother. This world is like a forest of thorns, but the love of a mother is a garden of blossoming flowers of spring. The touch of a mother takes away all anxiety and stress and brings eternal joy. O mother, I am most fortunate to have you as my mother. Even the demigods are devoid of motherly love. Therefore they incarnate themselves as little sons to taste the Vatsalya rasa of mother's affection on earth." Now this is very interesting. Lord Chaitanya says that the demigods are devoid of motherly love. And how is that? Because I was reading on the heavenly planets, when a child is born, they immediately appear as 16 years old. They're not babies. You don't have to go through all that, difficulty of growing up, infancy, childhood, teenage. No. In the heavenly planets, when your mother gives birth, however the process is, you're 16 years old. So that may sound, convenient, but it means that mothers miss the natural loving exchanges of young babies. Young babies. So Mahaprabhu said to Sachimata, even the demigods are devoid of motherly love. Therefore they incarnate themselves as little sons to taste, quote unquote, Vatsalya rasa of mother's affection. That's interesting. So Sachimata, she spoke. "O my son, you speak so sweetly. You are so knowledgeable. And whatever you have said, it's very true. But the real truth is that I am so fortunate to have you as my son. I do not know what pious activities I must have performed in previous lives that Lord Narayan has given you to me. The whole of Navadvip comes to my door every day to see you." And the next thing she said will just melt your heart. She said, "O star of my eyes, O moon of my life, O lamp of my house, I pray to Lord Narayan that he will place you far away from all problems. O star of my eyes, O moon of my life, O lamp of my house." Oh, this is real poetry. There's that verse, I can't quote it exactly, but what is the use of a bowman's arrow unless it pierces the heart? And what is the use of poetry unless it melts the heart? This is pure poetry. Then she said to him, "Nimai, now take this cloth bag, for your friends are waiting for you to play holy. But before you go, let me put a black dot of beryllium on the back of your ears. Otherwise you'll attract so many evil eyes, my Nimai." So she gave him a bag to go out and play holy, full of things to protect him. Then Sachimata tied Nimai's waist with a silk cloth containing an extra supply of colored powder and saffron for holy. For holy. Remember, we're discussing spring pastimes, and we discussed several lectures about holy in Vrindavan. But Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radhe Krishna Nahi Anga. Who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He's the combined form of Radha and Krishna. And his method of happiness is to enjoy in this way with his devotees, throwing the colors. So then she gave him a golden syringe, and then she massaged his limbs with fragrant oil. You might say, "Ma, I want to go out and play." All right, you go now. But by the time, it's written, by the time that Nimai came out of his house, the sky was already red with color. Everyone was playing holy. And it's also mentioned, being spring, that the fields were a nice backdrop of green and yellow with spring flowers. This contrast is there. The red the red colored powdered dyes, hovering in the air, and the background was green and yellow with spring flowers. So men and women were playing holy together, and it's described they were all wishing each other Happy New Year. January 1st is not the Gaudiya Vaishnava's New Year. We go to bed early, like we do on most days, to get up early and chant our rounds. Our New Year is, the birth time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaur Purnima. And what kind of party did we have? Sankirtan party. Mass congregational chanting of the holy names. Of course, we also go out on January 1st, or the evening before New Year's Eve, to chant in the streets of London and Paris and Sydney and Moscow for the benefit of the fallen conditioned souls, because they're out there partying, and we're showing them what's a real party. A real party is Sankirtan, chanting Hare Krishna. Now, Gadadhar Pandit writes that, as Nimai came out and the holy festival was going on, he writes, everyone was visiting their elders and touching their feet. Not only that, they were putting colored powder on their elders' feet. And to their friends, it mentions they were putting colored powder on their hands and their cheeks. They dab it there, amongst the family members. And Gadadhar Pandit Goswami writes, it's very beautiful, Nimai, the lover of holy. There you go. Nimai, the lover of holy, went to Advaitacharya, who was happily showering everyone with fragrant saffron water. And he writes that Nimai felt blessed having saffron water showered on him by Advaitacharya. Now during all this, the Gandharvas in heaven, they played huge Brihat Mardangas, Dundubis. I had to look up, what's a Dundubi? A Dundubi is it's like a huge trumpet-like instrument. And everyone was playing kartals, and it also mentions magical instruments. Couldn't find out what were the magical instruments. I guess we have to wait and see if we can join Mahaprabhu's eternal Leela. So now as the tempo of the holy celebration increased, Nimai was just dancing like mad and throwing colors with this hand and that hand. And then his friends like Jagadananda and Murari, it's mentioned, started throwing sandalwood paste on him. And in return, Nimai started spraying kumkuma water on them from his golden syringe that his mother had given him. And at that point, Damodar and Narahari started singing Damar. Damar. Damar means literally joyful songs about holy. And when we were reading, or we were discussing Radha and Krishna's holy pastimes, in Vrindavan, we often heard about these songs. It wasn't everyone was just throwing colors. Remember, on the side, there were devotees singing about holy, and there were devotees playing musical instruments. This type of celebration. So at one point, it's mentioned Nimai rushed towards a devotee named Purushottam to play holy. But Purushottam ran away. It's described because he was afraid of being splashed with colors. And seeing this, all the ladies and men, who witnessed this whole scene, they started laughing and joking. So then Gadadhar Bhajati K. Vani describes, and I'll quote here, by afternoon time, everyone started feeling very hungry. So Mother Sachi and others fed their children a feast of different varieties of food, and then all the boys went with Nimai to the Ganga for Jal Keli pastimes. Jal means water, and Keli means playful, so for playful water pastimes. And there they all scrubbed away the colors from their bodies and then rested under a kadamba tree. And that our illustrious Gadadhar Bhatta Goswami, he concludes, I am overwhelmed beholding the beauty, Krishna, sleeping under the shadow of the tree. I am overwhelmed beholding the beauty, meaning Krishna, sleeping under the shadow of a tree. Hare Krishna. Now, we can keep going. These pastimes are unlimited. So we also have detailed information how our, like Prabhupada would sometimes say, our Krishna. It just makes you feel like part of the team. We also have information how our Lord Chaitanya played holy when he grew a little older and was surrounded by a number of associates, including his beloved Lord Nityananda. Now that information I found in a book called The Sportive Battle of Gora Gadadhar. The Sportive Battle of Gora Gadadhar. It's written by a Vaishnava saint named Mohandas. So I thought if I'm going to quote Mohandas, I better figure out who he is and if he's connected to our Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage. He must be, because he's describing the sportive battle of Gora Gadadhar. But I was very, very happy to find out that he was a very dear, perhaps the closest friend of Shri Govinda Kaviraj. Govinda Kaviraj. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 1251, in the purport, Prabhupada writes that Govinda Kaviraj was a disciple of Srinivasacharya. Of course, we all know him as the author of the song Bhajahure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana. Bhajahure Mana Shri Nanda Nandana Adbhaya Charanara Vindure Dulabhamana Vajanama Satsange Taho E Bhava Sindure. Every new devotee learns that song. O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which makes one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence to the association of saintly persons. This just brings back memories to me of the early 70s. You know, we would sing this song all the time. And I was reading that after Shri Govinda Kaviraj wrote Bhajahure Mana, he sent it to Srila Jiva Goswami for approval. And when Jiva Goswami had that bhajan sung for him, he appreciated it so much that he wrote back. He wrote back to Govinda Kaviraj, and I'm quoting Jiva Goswami here, the letter. Please continue to compose kirtans like these. You are very qualified, so you should compose more and send them to me here in Vrindavan. The very words of Jiva Goswami. So anyway, I think I can safely say our Mohandas was Govinda Kaviraj's best friend. Birds of a feather stick together. Let's put it like that. Not the best analogy, but you know, they're tight. So he wrote this, you could say a long poem actually, called The Sportive Battle of Gora Gadadhar, wherein we get insight into Lord Chaitanya's holy pastimes in spring, in his later youth. Now I'll just recite directly from his writings. I won't quote the Bengali, but I'll just recite the translations for all of us. He writes, just see the delightful pastime of Gauranga. In the spring season, along with all his dear associates, he went to the banks of the ocean. On one side, in a team, is Gadadhar, along with Surup Damodar, Basu Ghosh, Govinda, etc. On another hand are Gauridas, etc., with Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu's teams take pichakari, like those water guns, made out of sandalwood, and shower Gadadhar's body with water. Now on the other team, headed by Gadadhar, Surup Damodar, along with all associates, took gulal, powder, in their hands and threw it profusely at Gaura Rai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. While playing in this way, Gauridas, who was on the side of Mahaprabhu, clapped and said, "Gauranga has won! Gauranga has won!" Thus he ran in joy. Then, angry at this, Surup Damodar said, "No, Gauranga Rai has lost. Lord Chaitanya has lost, our Gadadhar has won. At that point, some devotees made sounds by slapping their upper arms with their palms, while others sang and danced with raised hands. All this is immensely attractive to the mind of Mohan Das. Hare Krishna. Oh boy. So now we'll finally conclude our lectures on springtime in both Vrindavan and Mayapur with the following poem by a devotee named Naya Nanandana Mishra. Naya Nanandana Mishra. It's entitled Pula Vane Dolata Gaur Kishore. Now, Nayanananda Mishra was also an exalted devotee. He was a nephew, and more important, he was a disciple of our famous Gadadhar Pandit. He himself was a well-known composer of Vaishnav Padavali songs. So, yes, we can conclude with his devotion in this, describing this particular pastime. Lord Chaitanya playing holy. He writes, "What can I say of the bliss being manifested today? The adolescent, youthful Gora is dancing to and fro in the forest full of flowers. He is there along with Nityananda and Gadadhar. The Lord of Shantipur, Sri Advaita Acharya, sings in merriment. Bringing along his intimate associates and colors to play holy, Sri Gora sings. Hearing him with love, all the people become enlivened. The wonderful beat sounds on, with the names of Hari being sung, whilst Nayanananda is enraptured with bliss." Hare Krishna. I think we all have to thank those wonderful Vaishnavas for the wonderful poems and songs that they wrote for all of us and future generations, so we can get a glimpse of what it was like for Lord Chaitanya and his associates to play holy during springtime. So we finished our springtime pastimes, our lectures on the springtime pastimes, and we'll move on to the summer pastimes in the next lecture. Each season has its unique flavor and unique pastimes, loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the associates of their associates in Vrindavan, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates in Navadvip, Mayapur. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Be back soon. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shyama ki, Vrindavaneshwari, Shrimati Radharani ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Shyam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol. Hare Krishna, very dear devotees. Welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine, Vivishesha Shunyavadi Pastrata Deshatarane. In glorification of Srila Prabhupada, who I often say is the revealer of the Dham, I'd also like to include a prayer here by the famous Vaishnav poet, Surdas. He writes very beautiful. I offer my obeisances to my spiritual master, who gave me beautiful Kantimala, effulgent tilak, the beautiful form of a devotee, and who offered me his shelter. In one of his hands he is holding my hand, and with his other hand he is holding the lamp of knowledge, which helps me to cross over this dark ocean of the material world. Surdas says, my Guru deserves the greatest respect because only he can rescue one in the blinking of an eye. I bow down to him again and again and again. All glories to Prabhupada. So, exciting news. Today we're actually starting a new series entitled Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. And this will be part 1. This is actually, as many of you know, the title of chapter 26 of Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, which of course we know is a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Chapter 26 of Nectar Devotion is a study of things which help to stimulate or awaken our love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada introduces that chapter by writing as follows, quote, some things which give impetus or stimulation to ecstatic love of Krishna are his transcendental qualities, his uncommon activities, his smiling features, his apparel and garlands, his flute, his buffalo horn, his leg bells, his conch shell, his footprints, the places of his pastimes, such as Vrindavan, his favorite plant, Tulsi, his devotee, and the periodical occasions for remembering him. One such occasion for remembrance is Ekadasi, which comes twice a month on the 11th day of the moon, both waning and waxing. Prabhupada continues, on that day all the devotees remain fasting throughout the night and continuously chant the glories of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada's description of this, that chapter, Nectar of Devotion. So in this new series we will discuss a number of these articles, like Krishna's flute, his peacock feather, his different types of crowns, his stick for controlling the cows, his buffalo horn, there's lots of things, as well as Srimati Radharani's paraphernalia. Her paraphernalia like her shringara, her jewels, her braided hair, her red footlack, etc. We will discuss the origin of all these things, what role they play in the divine couple's service, what our acharyas like Sri Rupa Goswami have to say about them, etc. We'll also hear that the glories of these articles, excuse me, I have a little cold, in the poems of famous devotee poets like Surdas, Mirabai, and many others, etc. We'll do our best to study these things from every angle. Vedic scholars, I was reading, say there are 3 angles by which something can be studied or viewed. It's really interesting. The first one is known as Simha Avlokana. Simha Avlokana, or the view of a lion, whose vision is limited to seeing straight ahead or behind him. The second view that's mentioned in our Vedic literature is known as Kapot Avlokana. Kapot Avlokana. It's the view of the pigeon, whose vision is a little more broadened, because the pigeon is able to turn his neck quite liberally and see objects pretty much all around him. But the third and most perfect vision is Vihanga Avlokana. This is the bird's eye view from above, in which one has the advantage to see everything below very clearly. And this is the view of our acharyas, who, by dint of their pure hearts and, of course, the mercy of the Lord, are able to see, and what's more, realize all spiritual matters perfectly. It is such acharyas like Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami who will enlighten us in our study of stimulation for ecstatic love. So, we'll begin today with a most favorite article, you could say paraphernalia of Krishna, and that's his flute. His flute. We see here, I'm in Mayapur now, but we see here in the temples of India, especially in Vrindavan, well, everywhere actually, in India, and in ISKCON centers around the world, we see Krishna standing on the altar in a beautiful Turibanga, threefold bending form, playing a flute. Sometimes I think when I'm standing in front of the deity, I say, if only I could hear that flute. Maybe you've thought like that too. If only I could, I'm seeing the flute for many years now, I'd like to hear the flute. So there's another famous Vaishnava poet whose name was Parmandas, and he has given us a hint of what happens to those fortunate souls who can hear it. If you can hear the flute, this poet describes what happens. He writes very beautifully. O Saki, when Krishna places the flute to his sweet nectarian lips, at that time all people, demigods and living beings who are fortunate, stop breathing in excitement. As he starts playing it, filling it with his transcendental breath, all living beings who can hear it properly and demigods become intoxicated. When he comes to the fifth note, all the ecstatic symptoms start to appear in those fortunate enough to hear it properly. And when he plays the seventh and highest note, I didn't know there was a seventh, and highest note of his flute, he enlivens the soul of everyone. O Saki, what more can I say? With the last note of his flute song, all the kings place their royal crowns at the feet of the flute. Beautiful ladies surrender their beauty to it. Demigods offer their powers to it. And Saraswati becomes a maidservant to it. I, Parmanandas, also offer my everything to that flute who can drown the entire world in ecstasy. We have to thank that poet. We have so much gratitude to express in Krishna consciousness. Now, in the illustrious Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami describes Krishna's flute as follows. Quote, as far as his flute is concerned, it is said that the vibration of this wonderful instrument was able to break the meditation of the greatest of sages. Krishna was thus challenging Cupid by advertising his transcendental glories all over the world. Rupa Goswami's description. And of course, Lord Brahma, the first guru in our Sampradaya, also mentions the flute in his immortal Brahma Samhita 530. He says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, whose blooming eyes are like lotus petals, with head bedecked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. It's very poetic, but it just resonates with our hearts after so many years. When you hear that, it's very poetic, a little difficult to recite because it's fancy English, but we know it because we heard it so many times being devotees in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So therein we hear about Krishna's flute. Now, in my studies, I came to understand there's three principal kinds of flutes used by Krishna. There's the Venu. This flute is very small, not more than 6 inches long, with 6 holes for, it's described, whistling. That's how it's described in the scriptures. 6 holes for whistling. Then there's the Murali. Murali is about 18 inches long, with a hole at the end and 4 holes on the body of the flute. And it's described this kind of flute produces a very enchanting sound. Then there's the Vamsi. The Vamsi flute is about 15 inches long with 9 holes in its body. Now, all these flutes are often bedecked with jewels. Sometimes they're made of marble, sometimes they're made of hollow bamboo. And when the flute is made of jewels, it's called samohini. And when the flute is made of gold, it's called akarshini. Now, an interesting point.
Vatsala Sri Gaura Hari Vajabhakata Vatsala Sri Gaura Hari Sri Gaura Hari Sahi Goshta Bihari Nanda Jasomati Chita Hari Dhira Damodara Ishaye Kana Bhova Mandire Basi Karaha Bojana Nandirani Deshi Bashi Giri Baradari Baladeva Saha Saka Vaise Sari Sari Shukta Shakhari Vaji Lalita Kushmanda Dalidana Dugda Tumi Dari Mocha Kanda Dabora Mash Boda Roti Kagritana Chaskuli Pistaka Kir Puli Payasana Kapura Amrita Keli Ramba Kirashara Amrita Rasalama Dvadasha Pakora Luci Sinisar Puri Ladura Sabali Bhojana Korena Krishna Hoye Kutuhali Radhikara Pakayana Bibida Bhanjana Paramayanande Krishna Korena Bhojana Chale Bale Ladu Khai Sri Madhu Mangala Bagala Bajaya Deya Hari Bolo Radhikari Gani Hari Nayane Akone Tripta Hoye Kai Krishna Jasoda Bhavani Bhojanande Priya Krishna Subhasita Bari Sabe Mukha Prakaloy Kore Sari Sari Asta Mukha Prakaliya Jata Sakagane Anande Vishrama Kore Baladeva Sane Jambula Rasalane Tambula Masala Tahake Krishna Chandra Sukhe Nijagela Vishalaka Shiki Pucha Chamara Dulaya Apurva Sayaya Krishna Sukhe Nirayaya Yasomati Anga Priye Danishtaya Nito Sri Krishna Prasad Radha Unje Hoye Prito ठारी साकी गाना अवशेष पाया मने मने सुखे राधा कृष्ण गुण गाया हरि लीला एकमात्र जहाँ प्रमोदा भोगारती गाय ठाकुर भक्ति विनोद भक्त वत्सल श्री गौर हरि भज भक्त वत्सल श्री गौर हरि श्री गौर हरि सहि गोष्ठ बिहारी श्री गौर हरि सहि गोष्ठ बिहारी नंद जसोमती